Welcome to Wonder Women Who Build, the podcast where women lead boldly, build businesses that last, and forge relationships that truly matter. I'm your host, Carrie Moreau, business owner, relationship builder, proud roofing Wonder Woman, and someone who believes that success starts with a solid foundation in business and in life. Whether you're growing a company, leading a team, or just figuring out what's next, this space is for you. So thank you for hitting play. I'm so glad you're here. My win this week is feedback I got specifically about our space here at Wonder Women Who Build and how it is affecting the lives of business women in the world, in the wild, so to speak. And I was so grateful to hear their kind words of encouragement. I even got some ideas for some future episodes and just the inspiration that they received. And there was one lady who specifically told me it challenged her to open her business. And so I'm so grateful for that feedback. And it was so kind of them to share that with me. So thank you so much for being here and being in this space. And if you're one of those women who approached me in the last month, your words meant a lot. So thanks. Today's topic is the secret to networking that actually builds your business. So I don't know about you, but there's people that I meet throughout networking that will say to me or ask me questions like they don't understand how I do it. And it comes really natural to me to be out networking for my business. And I didn't realize till I sat down to write this episode and share some of my tips and tricks and secrets with you, how much I actually do. But the reason why it is fun and easy for me is because it comes naturally. So I'm going to try to share some of these things with you and hopefully simplify it so that it brings you encouragement and then you actually feel more confident walking into these spaces. But what I've heard first from people is that the fear of being in a room where they don't know anyone, or the fear that they're going to have to stand up and talk about themselves. But really, it all roots in fear. That's what holds people back from doing networking. The other thing I've heard from people about the reasons why they don't like networking is that it didn't yield them anything. So they spent a bunch of time in a room with strangers and it didn't yield them any business. Another thing I hear back is that people go into those spaces to network and it seems to them that everyone in the room already knew each other. And so it didn't feel inclusive. And they felt like it was, the term I hear a lot is that it was like a cliquish, that it wasn't welcoming for new people in the spaces they entered. So I want to talk about that and how I overcome those things when I'm out networking and the inroads that I've made so that I can, if I walk into a room where I'm not feeling included, some of the little things that I do to change my headspace and to start conversations. So let's get into this episode. I want to start off with a real story that just happened yesterday. So I'll give you some of the lead up to what this event is that I went to. So I'm a member of my local Chamber of Commerce, and they have once a month, they have a luncheon called Women's Inspiration Network. So what it is we go in and we have time to socialize throughout the room, shake hands, exchange cards, meet new faces, meet new people, and then we settle in to get our food, and then we have a seat, and then there's a speaker that presents something inspirational to us, or it could be something about health and wellness, or it could be a woman-owned business that's sharing about what she does in her journey. And I usually try to sit with people I don't know, but I also tried to sit with someone I do know because it seems to be more pleasant when you have somebody that you know. So that was the event I was at. So at this luncheon yesterday, there was a new woman who was there, and her name was Sarah. And I could tell that it was her first time just by the way she was looking around the room. So I always make sure that I'm wearing a name tag because that way not everyone will remember your name the first time they hear it. So I feel like it helps people to connect if they can say your name back to you. So anyway, I approached her. She said her name was Sarah. I shook her hand and I said, "Oh, is it your first time coming here to this event?" And she said, "Yes." And then we had a small conversation and then we got our food. And then as I went to sit down, she wasn't really sure how the event worked. So I said, "Hey, just to let you know, what we do is we open network for a little while and then we go put our stuff down at a seat because the seats fill up quickly. And then we go get our food and we come back and sit together." And she's like, "Oh, thank you so much." So I already set the stage for like inclusiveness for her. And then we had a seat, put our stuff down, got our food, had a seat. And then through, like just eating our food and talking, I asked her, like, have you lived in the area do you go to networking events often? And she said, actually, I don't. I'm new to the area, and this is my very first time coming to anything for the chamber. I was like, wow, awesome. I'm so glad you're here. So tell me, what do you do? And so she started describing what she does, what business she owns. And then I asked her, what got you to move to the area? And she shared that with me. And then we got on the subject of her family and how many children she has. And then I asked her, where did you live before? So where she lived before, she's from Alabama. I was like, wow, that's a huge transition. What have you found to be the most, is it like culture shock? Is there anything you didn't expect when you moved here? So she answered that question. And then I tried to think of something unique to ask her. It makes her stand out in my mind because I've attached it to this little fact. That sounds like a lot of work. It is a lot of mental work. It's something that comes to me naturally. So what I am telling you to do is to go to a networking event to be curious. We have the mindset that networking, like we're showing up, like some of the things I was talking about in the fears, is that we show up to get. So a couple of years ago, I changed my mindset about networking to showing up to give. So when I show up to give, what does that look like? And so I spent some time thinking about it. If I'm showing up to give, I'm more concerned about other people in the room, who they are, what they do for a living, who they're looking to connect with than myself. I'm not walking in the door to be like, okay, I need to get X amount of roofs this month. So who in this room needs a roof? You know how difficult it is to get that conversation started? It's just not going to happen. But if I meet someone and I'm kind, I'm curious, I'm conversational, I made them feel comfortable, they're going to remember me. And then when it comes to this section of the meeting where each one of us get an opportunity to stand up and talk about what we do for a living, maybe quite possibly I am going to be more memorable because of the small foundation I just built and being curious about them as a person. So the interesting things that I learned about her before I left the meeting, well, there was a point in the lunch where she turned it around before I got to speak about myself, and she did ask me what I did for a living, and I was able to tell her. And then I asked her if we could exchange cards. So I always ask, it's not always the natural inclination for someone to do that because they think they're being pushy. So I say, can we exchange cards? And then my next question I always ask is, thank you so much. Who are you looking to be connected with? And then I'll say, I'll tell her what I do in networking. I'll explain that a little bit to the person to establish some more credibility. And I say, I meet a lot of people. I connect with a lot of people. So would these people be good connections for you? And then I won't say the person's name, but I'll say, I know a massage therapist who specializes in prenatal massage. I know a chiropractor who does prenatal adjustments. I'll go through the list of people I know that work in her same sphere of influence as far as women who are having babies, because that's what she does for a living. She's a doula. So I asked her those questions so that I could make the connections. And then I told her, later today, I'm going to send you an email and introduce you to those people. And then I always say, would that be okay with you? She, of course, said, yes, I would love for you to make those introductions. I said, great, I'll send you that email later. And then a little bit of time passed and some more small talk. And I said, hey, by the way is one of my favorite phrases. I said, hey, by the way, could I invite you to a networking meeting that I'm a part of? And she was like, yeah, sure. I would love to be invited. So now I have an interested party to see again. And I'm going to introduce her to my networking group, which I go to weekly, which is 50 business owners. So I set the foundation for that information to come through. Then someone else walked up the table, had a conversation. Somebody asked me about my hair, asked me about who's my hairdresser. And then she's like, I need a hairdresser. I just moved here. I was like, okay, I'll email her that information. I'll send you her information in that email. I didn't give it to her right then because I want her to anticipate and open my email and actually respond to it and make that connection. Because a lot of times you can give information really quickly in the moment and they're in the middle of too many things. They're going to get 10 business cards. They're going to get all this information at this event and they're going to leave and they're going to re-enter their life and their world and their business. And they're going to forget all about the connection they just made. So my follow-up is going to allow us to move our connection a step closer to being able to be a trusted referral partner. So I wrote the facts I learned about her on the back of the business card and then stuck it somewhere where that I also wouldn't lose it, because that's happened to me before, so that I could follow up with her later. All of that seems like a lot. But when you're going to a networking event to give, you only really need to make 1 or 2 really good connections, because it's impossible to go to a room of 40 people and connect with all 40 people. That just doesn't make any sense logically in relationships. Like, it's just not going to happen. So if you set your expectation for what you're trying to get out of it. So what I've changed it. So I go to give, but what I'm planning to get out of it is 2 good connections that I can make introductions for them. And when I started doing networking that way, my networking sphere exploded. So that leads me into the next thing I want to talk to you about, is that when you do it that way, you become a trusted source of information or a trusted partner, because I just established myself as someone who's connected in the community and knows a lot of people. I think that was kind of like a given. Like, it was like the underlying message that I'm providing is that I know a lot of people, because if I can connect and send referrals, it's going to build my trust, because it is proven that if you're giving referrals and helping someone build their business, they are going to want to reciprocate. They're going to want to give it back. It's like yesterday I was listening to that. Brooke was our previous guest. She was actually the one speaking at this luncheon. And she shared about how business gifting changes a business. But the one thing she said that relates to this is, she said, what happens when someone gives you a really thoughtful gift that you weren't expecting? You get it, you open it, you're so like, wow, this person saw me, they knew I would enjoy this. And if you didn't have anything to give back in return, it stays with you because you want to give back. So the same thing happens, not just with gifts, but the same thing happens with referrals. So if I make an introduction to a person that starts to send her clients, it'll change the landscape of her business. She will remember that I was the one that did that. So sometimes there's situations where it may not ever land back towards me as far as reciprocation. And that has to be okay. Networking doesn't really work if you're like constantly thinking about what you're going to get. Because it takes a while to build this. Sometimes it might be that you walk into a room and the person was looking for your service, but it's generally not the case. I have walked into a networking event, met someone, and they're like, I need a roof, and you're the person, and so I'm going to follow up with me tomorrow. That happens way less than the other things that happen, which is being able to make connections for people. But there was a networking event I went to a few months ago that there was a gentleman there who's very established in the community, has a very large business, and I've been wanting to get an introduction to him. But, as a business owner, he has a lot of people wanting his time. A lot of people want his introductions to him. So when I saw him at this event, I said a little prayer. I was like, give me something that I can give to him, something of value. Like, I didn't know he was going to be here, but he's been in my radar of wanting the introduction for a very long time. So when I saw him there, I saw like, okay, our paths are crossing. I have this great opportunity. I can't let it pass me by. And so as the function ended, a lot of people were hanging around afterwards, and they were talking specifically to him because he's like a whale of a business. He doesn't go venture out very often. He doesn't have time. And so there was people that know him well that were like excited to see him and we're talking. So I kind of hung around. I felt a little bit like I felt weird, like I was being a stalker, because that's, what I was doing. I was like, I want an introduction to this guy. So I stayed back and I hung out, but the people who were talking to him were mutual friends of mine. So as those people started to leave, I was like, hey, I would really love an introduction to him. Could you introduce me? She's like, yeah, sure. So she introduced me. And then because I'm a roofer, he started talking about just automatically, he started talking about a struggle he's having with his personal roof, that he has all this storm damage, and he got denied by his insurance company like the day before. And I was like, really? Denied? Man, that really stinks. Gave him empathy, talked to him a little bit more. And then I said, who's your insurance company? And he said the insurance company that he had, and it just happens to be the insurance company that our good friend Brooke Bolts used to represent, and she wins claims against this insurance company day in and day out for homeowners who are getting denied when there's, it's not supposed to be a denial. They should have paid the claim, which sounded exactly like his case. And I said, so it just happened yesterday. It's a fresh denial. He said, yes. And I said, oh my gosh, you have to call my friend. She wins cases against that insurance company every day of the week. You have to talk to her. He was like, okay, yeah, I do have to talk to her. So I was able to get his direct number and I texted it to her and she called him that afternoon and now he's one of her clients. He has a best friend that's a roofer. He shared that with me. That business is not going to come my way. If Brooke wins that case and he gets a new roof, he's going to go to his best friend and that's the person that's putting his roof on. I'm not going to get anything. But am I though? Because I said to him as he was walking out of the building we were in, I said, hey, when she wins your claim, you're going to remember me, right? And he said, yeah. And I said, and you'll give me a nod. You'll give me a nod from across the room the next time we see each other? He said, absolutely. So it wasn't that I'm looking to get business from him, that it's going to affect my bottom line tomorrow, that he has whatever. But he is in an industry that when we have a storm, he's at people's homes and his business explodes during that time. And there's not enough roofers to take care of the homeowners that'll have storm damage. So even if I just am a flint of a little tiny memory in the back of his head that he can be like, she really helped me out. So my guy's too busy. Why don't we give her a call and see if she can help out with this person? It's not going to be something that is going to make a difference in my business tomorrow, but it's establishing the relationship and hopefully building trust and adding value to his life so that he will remember me at some point and want to reciprocate. So it's playing the long game. If you're walking into networking thinking that it's going to change things tomorrow, maybe you got super lucky. But most people, it takes time to build those relationships and build trust. And there's some industries that has a longer period of time to build trust. I'm in one of those industries. I'm in an industry where people, they hear a roofer, they're like, roofing. Ugh. It's expensive. It's usually a problem with your house. They don't want to talk to the person. They've had bad experiences with someone else sometime at some point. And so it takes longer to build trust for me. And that's okay. I know that. But maybe you're in an industry that, isn't that way. You might get business quicker. But if you switch your mindset to walking into networking events to give, it lifts your spirits because I love giving. It makes me feel so good that I guarantee you that if you could just get a little piece of that, it's inspirational and it's much easier to sell for someone else than it is to sell for yourself. So if you're thinking about networking, and I talked about how most people are afraid and the fear is what keeps them away, I was there too. When I first started getting up in front of people, my heart rate would elevate, my breath would quicken, my stomach would feel awful. Sometimes I would even feel like I gotta go to the bathroom. Like I can't make it through the next 20 minutes. This is awful. I hate this. And then when it comes time to stand up, you forget what you're going to say. You stumble over your words, or when you sit down, you overanalyze it. Like you can't even be present because your body is telling you to run or telling you to leave. So it was like that for me. So what I had to do was a mental trick is that in my body, I don't know what it's like for you, but in my body, when I'm feeling afraid, it's the same exact feeling that I have when I'm excited. So I love people. There's a lot of things about networking I love. Like I love making connections. I love all these things. So when you love something, when you are going to do it, you genuinely are excited. Like you have plans to go do this thing and you're excited about doing it and you think all these positive thoughts and you're excited, but the bodily sensations of excitement, because you're telling yourself you're excited, it aligns. But somehow we tell ourselves we're afraid, our body has those same sensations, and then we just agree. We just agree with what's happening. So I decided to disagree with what was happening in my body. So when I started to get shortness of breath, my heart rate increased and all those things, and right before I was about to stand up to talk, I would sit there and say, I'm so excited. In my mind, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. This is amazing. I'm so excited. I'm in a room full of all these people. This is great. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Now, when I stood up, I was still had some of the sensations, but I was able to push through it and it not take over because I told myself I was excited instead of being afraid. So I don't know if that'll work for you, but maybe you could try it. See if it works. Just tell yourself you're excited and see how that makes a difference for you. The other thing I do is I plan my networking events on my calendar and in a way that I don't know if I'm always going to have time to go to all the events in my community that are available to me, but I'm going to put them on my calendar anyway. So I'm going to look at what the chamber has to offer. I'm actually a member of several chambers. So I'm going to go to their events calendar, and everything that looks like something that would be a good event for me to attend, I'm going to plug it into my calendar and black out that space in my calendar. And I'll do this for the month. And so I'll go to the different chambers, the different networking events, plug them all in. It doesn't mean I'm going to go to them. Some of them are free. Some of them cost money. So I have to look at the ones that cost money. So if they cost money, I put a dollar sign in front of it because I'm going to go. I need to go to the website and pay in advance or make sure I show up with money or whatever. So I code it so I know which ones are free and which ones aren't. Then I look at the calendar for the week. And then based on how many sales appointments I have, if I'm low on sales appointments, then I will go to all my networking events. So if I am high on my sales appointments for the week, then I will not go to the networking events because you can't do it all. You can't be everywhere and do everything. Even though that's what people say to me when they see me places, they're like, you're everywhere. I'm not. If you see me a lot of places in a month, just understand that I didn't have as many sales appointments as I had the month before. That's why I'm there. I'm networking because I'm building other people up because it will come back and reciprocate. So I block off my calendar. So that's for the month. Then as I look at the week, if I'm going to go, let's say a networking event on a Wednesday night, Tuesday, I'm going to be thinking about that networking event. So I'm going to plan the day before. So I'm going to think about who's there, what's the layout, what is their focus? Like sometimes it'll be named something like business alliance or professional blah, 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 or chamber after 5, whatever it is they're calling it. And then I'm going to look at it like on the event page to kind of see who attend, like see the pictures they have associated with whatever. I'm going to look at it so I get a feel for what's happening. I'm going to look at where it's located so I know how much time I need to give myself to travel there. I'm going to check out parking because if the obstacles to anything is what's going to keep you from doing it. So if you can eliminate some of the obstacles, you can reduce the anxiety and the fear as you're approaching the event. Okay, so I'm going to check out the landscape of the room. I'm going to see where it's located. I'm going to map it out, see how long it's going to take me to get there from the point that I'm at before. So whether it's my office, my house, somewhere else that I am, how long it's going to take. I'm going to look at parking, and I'm going to make sure I have my spiel written out as far as like maybe they're going to give me an opportunity to talk. So I'm going to think about what I'm going to say. Like maybe there's a special I'm running in my business, something I'm offering my clients. I'm going to put that in the forefront of my mind. I wear tennis shoes to all my stuff. I like to have comfortable shoes on. So I'm going to think about what tennis shoes I'm going to wear because dirty tennis shoes, I've been walking in somebody's yard. I'm going to make sure I have an extra pair of shoes in the car so I can switch them out in case that I was inspecting a house and my shoes are dirty. So then the other thing I'm going to do is make sure my stack of business cards is refreshed wherever I keep my business cards. You don't know how many times I go to a networking event and I'll ask somebody for their card and they're digging in their bag or what, and they're like, I forgot my cards. And then it's like, okay, thanks. Like there's no way to do anything later. And I'm like, okay, well, can I put your information in my phone or whatever? So anyway, and then the person's usually embarrassed that they forgot their cards and they go through a whole explanation of like what happened and why they forgot them. So find your cards, put them in your car, put them in your bag, put them wherever you need to have them so you don't forget your cards. Also, find your name tag if you have one because it really helps people to remember you if they can visually see your name. So if you don't have a name tag, you can get them for like $5. So get a name tag with your business logo or, wear a shirt, whatever, like identifiable with your brand. Have it close by so that that's also not something that's an obstacle. All right. So do some prep. Don't just think that if it's on your calendar that it's going to make it easy to get there. The other thing sometimes you have to do is inform people close to you. So at first it was difficult for my family to be accustomed to my new schedule because it meant if I had a low week of sales appointments during office hours, then if that week the networking events were in the evening, that meant that I wasn't home to cook dinner or whatever. So I had to involve my family to being able to be like, hey, I've got a thing on Wednesday night. I'm not going to be home to cook. How can we fix this? Who's going to be responsible for dinner? Having those conversations really is helpful. Okay, so now the follow-up. So when I told you that I wrote the facts about the young woman I met yesterday at that networking event, I wrote them on the card. Then I have the card in hand. So what do I do now? So I got back to my office and I sat it there, and I sat it in a prominent place because I had to send that follow-up. That's where most networking drops off, is in the follow-up, because follow-up takes time and thoughtfulness. So I wanted to be a woman of my word. I told her that I was going to connect her with the massage therapist. I told her that I was going to let her know about other networking events. And I told her I was going to send her over the contact for my hairdresser. So it was important, and I needed to follow up. I wanted to be a woman of my word. I did that. I sent 2 emails. These emails are simple introductions. So the person I was introducing her to is a massage therapist. So that the subject line in my email says introduction, and then it says the 2 people's names. I read somewhere, I'm not sure, but I read that there's a percentage of emails that get opened more when they include an emoji and when they include the person's name you're sending it to. So I said introduction, and then I put the 2 women's names there, and then I put a baby emoji in the subject line, because that's weird. Why would I put a baby emoji there? Well, because they both work with women who are pregnant, right? But I think the person the massage therapist I introduced her to, I didn't call her, or let her know in advance this email was coming. But when she sees that email and that little baby face, and it has this person's name and her name, she's going to be curious, and she's going to click it, and she's going to open. So I say, hi, I say the 2 ladies' names, hi. And then I say, it's my pleasure to introduce the 2 of you. And then I just get into it. And I say some things about each person that knows that I was listening to what she was saying. So I know the massage therapist really well. So I started there. I started to say, the girl I met, I told you her name was Sarah, the woman I met. So I said, Sarah, allow me to introduce you to, the massage therapist's name is Maureen. Allow me to introduce you to Maureen. Maureen is, and then I described what Maureen is. I described what she does, who she is as a person, maybe something that I think I mentioned something that they might have in common, how long they've been doing what they do, that she works with women, she does prenatal massage. And I described Maureen. And then I said, Maureen, allow me to introduce Sarah. Now, I just met Sarah. I don't know much about her. So I took a little second and I typed in her website. And I went to her website. I saw how long she's been doing doula services, and a couple other things about her specifically, because she had an About Me page. So I went to that and I said, hi, Maureen, let me introduce you to Sarah. Sarah just recently relocated to the area because her husband got a job and I mentioned the college that her husband got a job at. She's looking to connect with these people. I thought you guys would be a perfect introduction because of this reason and that reason, and shared those tidbits there. And then at the end, I gave both of their contact information. So I said the first name and last name of each person. I said I didn't need to give them their email addresses because I sent an email, right? That's already there. But I gave them each other's phone numbers. And then I said, I look forward to watching this relationship blah, blah, flourish, whatever, send. Then I opened up another email and I said, follow up on the stuff I, said I'd give you, whatever. So then gave her the hairdresser, invited her to my networking group, and talked to her about, because one of the things she had said to me at the lunch was that she wasn't sure which chamber events would be the best ones for her to go to, and she was really looking for some insight on that. So I told her I was on the chamber board and that I would be happy to share those tidbits with her and talk it through. And if she ever wanted to meet up for coffee, I would love to have coffee with her. Sent that off. Done. I don't know what's going to happen, but the next time I see Sarah, I'll be able to ask her about it. I'll be able to see her face and say, hey, did you happen to connect with Maureen? How did that work out? And if they didn't connect, maybe I can invite Maureen to the coffee. I don't know, but I'm going to keep cultivating that and see what comes from it. The other thing I want to talk about is I talked about the prep for external prep as far as calendar, time, talking to the family about not cooking dinner, those details, and making sure you have business cards. But the mental mindset, yes, before you stand up to trick yourself into saying you're excited. But the other mental mindset that I do is I practice my pitch. So most networking events give you the mic at some point, even if it's just for 30 seconds. Don't wing it. Think about your pitch in advance. Practice it out loud, make eye contact, and smile. And remember, before you stand up, tell yourself you're super excited about it. So let me share mine. My pitch changes based on the room I'm presenting to. So my pitch from yesterday, it was a complete room full of women. So this was my pitch. I stood up and I said, "Hi, I'm Carrie Moreau, co-owner of Certified Best Roofing. Locally, most people know me as the Roofing Wonder Woman. A lot of things are unexpected in this world, one of them being our storm season and everything else. But I can guarantee you one thing. At Certified Best Roofing, there's no mansplaining." And I sat down. Why did I say that? Women are usually the decision makers, and in construction, in those spaces, we get mansplained to all the time. So I thought it was clever, and I thought it was funny, and it was fun for me, so that's what I did. However, there's other times when I'm in the room when that would not be appropriate. I would not use mansplaining because men don't like that term and women think it's funny, but we don't want to make fun of anyone. So another one I would give, for example, if I was at my weekly networking event that the people see me over and over again, I'll share more about the different services and highlight that. But I craft my pitch based on who's there. The other thing about crafting your pitch is that when the conversation does turn to you, so let's say it's a networking event where you don't get the microphone and someone does say, "What do you do?" If I replied with, I sell roofs, there's not really many follow-up. Most people don't know where to go from there because what they'll think is like, "Oh, I just got my roof done. I don't need you." That's what they think. So I need to respond with something that creates curiosity in them that allows them for a follow-up question. So let's see. What are some of the things that I've responded to people when they've asked me, "What do I do?" Somebody asked me, "What do you do?" And I'm like, "Oh, I provide peace of mind for homeowners during storm season." Like, "Oh, well, what is that? What do you do exactly?" And I say, "Well, I'm a roofer. I have a roofing company, but we help clients make sure that they can win their claim with their insurance if they get storm damage." And they're like, "Oh, I don't think I really polished that up right now. For some reason, I'm having a buffering moment where I can't remember what I say. But I'm really good on my feet, and I say something that means they'll have to ask me a follow-up question." I did make mistakes early on in networking, so it's okay because here's the thing. No one's going to remember it as much as you do. It's all right. Like I remember I was at a network, one of the very first chamber events I went to, I had a conversation with a gentleman. He said, "What do you do?" And I said, "I own a roofing company with my brother." He's like, "Oh, that's interesting. How did you get into roofing?" And I went on a 5-minute dissertation. And when I finished, he put his hand on my shoulder. Now, I didn't like this part, but it taught me a valuable lesson. He put his hand on my shoulder and he said, "Oh, sweetie." Oh, that's like the worst thing anyone can ever say to me. "Oh, sweetie, you should probably practice that and get it to under 1 minute." And then he walked away. Yeah, that really stunk. And that's enough to make me not want to go to another networking meeting. But I did. I took my hard knocks and I crafted it and I changed it and I learned a little bit more, and I've gotten better since that first networking meeting. Now when I go to networking, I get that expression back like, "Oh, talk to Carrie. She knows somebody." So it works. My networking group, when I came into it a couple of years ago, my position was growth coordinator. When I came in, it was like 22 people, and today it's at 56. And it's because of learning this framework, modeling it in front of people, consistently inviting, consistently networking, and consistently sharing what it is that our group does with other people and inviting them in. The other thing that I do is my mental mindset. As I'm driving to the event, there are some times where, like just before this recording, we had a guest. And one of the things that she said was that it was really tough to get in the right mindset for our talk because she had had a difficult conversation with her business partner sister. And she said it wasn't anything big. It was just annoying. And it like put me off guard. Okay. So I have those same things, those same challenges, like life be lifing. Life be lifing. Things are always happening. So on my way to a networking event, I do a couple of different things. I listen to something that lifts me up. So it could be, depending on the day, it might be like a song by Mary J. Blige. It could be, have you listened to the Snoop Dogg affirmation with little kids? It's so cute. Like, today is going to be a good day. Like anything that's going to help me, pick up my spirits. Because if I walk into a networking event and I have like a look on my face or in my eyes that I am not fully present, it's more difficult to be approachable. So I want to be approachable. I want to be a giver. I want to be genuinely curious. There are some days when that genuine curiosity, it is way down and I have to dig deep to bring it up, which takes a lot of energy, a lot of mental and emotional energy. So if I can shift my energy a little bit, I'll have more fun at the event, and I think I'll be more approachable and more people will have more fun with me. So I do that in the car on my way there. So sometimes it's there's this one I listen to that's called Clarity, and it's a woman speaking positive affirmations with like a soulful like beat in the background. So if you want to look that up on Apple Music or Spotify, it's called Clarity. And I think the thing behind it says joy and then this plus symbol soul. I don't know if that's the name of who does it, but anyway, that's how you can find it. I'll listen to that on my way there. And like I already mentioned, Snoop Dogg is really entertaining too. All right. So there's one thing about networking that if you've done it, maybe this happened. It's happened to me so many times, so I know it's probably happened to you. But there's a person that's there. They're approachable. You start the conversation and you begin to realize this was a mistake. You picked the wrong person. It's like going to the grocery store or wherever you are and you pick the wrong line and you're like, I could have picked that line. Anyway, you picked the wrong conversation and now you're there. How do you exit this conversation? Well, there's a couple things you can do. If you don't go to networking events alone, you can have a signal to your buddy who's like your wingman at the networking event. They can come rescue you. It's not always going to happen. Maybe they're busy. They don't see you. So you need to have a graceful exit. So one of the things I do is I wait till they take a breath, because sometimes this personality of a person, it's common and they don't take a breath. And I think I could be making this up, but I think it's because they're nervous. So they just keep talking and they don't know how to stop and they just keep talking. Okay, so it's really hard. So you have to stay present. Maybe you're going to think about what you're doing later. You tune out a little bit, but you got to stay present so you can find your exit. So as soon as they take a breath, the easiest thing to do is a gentle like touch on their arm, right? So you're like, oh, like you just remembered something. So you're like, oh, there's somebody over there that I need to go talk to. I need to go grab them. Thank you so much for talking to me about your business and telling me everything. Could we exchange cards? Then they did what they set out to do. They came to get. So here we go. We're going to exchange. Like, great. Thank you so much. And then you show like, great. Boop, and you're out. Skirt. You're out. But you have to kind of practice the nuance of that, because you could come off rude, but it's okay. It's also okay to be like, ooh, I'm going to go grab some of that food over there. Whatever. I see so-and-so. Or I'm so sorry. I mean, you could say you have to, go to the restroom. I don't know. But I just know that you can get them to stop talking if you gently, just with the tips of your fingers, don't grab them, but just like a gentle, like little touch somewhere appropriate. Maybe it's higher on the shoulder. Oh, I have to go. And most people are like, oh yeah, like gets them out of wherever they're focused in their brain. Somehow it just helps them come out of that and they will release you. They will release you. One time I got stuck in a corner with the person that was a spit talker. Oh gosh, it was so hard. And all I was thinking the whole time is like, I really hope they don't have a cold because I don't want to be sick. Anyway, happens to the best of us. Okay, let's recap. This is my Carrie's Networking Framework 101. So we're going to prepare, outfit, materials, and your mindset. We're going to pump up with a playlist, a meditation, or affirmations that make you feel good. We're going to be curious. So we're going to ask human questions. We're going to give first, offer value before you ever give a pitch. You might not ever give one, so also don't expect to be able to give one. You're going to do follow-up, so personal message, a connection, or an invite. And then you're going to know your exit so you can end a conversation with grace. You're going to practice your pitch. So when it's your turn, you know what you're saying, and when you know what you're saying and what you want to offer. So anyway, these are my final thoughts about networking. It's not about being polished. It's about being present and being genuine. I've talked about this before. When you show up fully yourself, people remember you. People don't remember the best speaker. They remember the best listener. When you walk in curious, you're prepared, and you're willing to serve, you don't just gain contacts. You build a reputation. You become the person people call when they need something. And then when the time is right, they'll want to give back to you. If this episode helped you reframe networking or gave you a tip you'll try, will you send it to one friend? That's how we keep growing this community. Tag me on Instagram at Wonder Women Who Build with your favorite tip or networking story, especially the awkward ones. Please share. We all need to know what those are. We want to hear them. And a reminder, you're not behind, you're building, and the world needs what you're bringing to it.